Well, I'm Alan Dale, and this is the We Are Tourism podcast in beautiful St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. And I love being in conversation with fellas that are really making a difference in this industry. And on that note, Rory, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us what you do.
Okay, my name is Roary MacPherson, 38 years in the culinary tourism industry in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm the executive chef at the Hilton Garden Inn, and I also run my own consulting company, the Culinary Collective, where I go in and I help establishments from anything from food costing, labor costing, locating procurement issues, chef for hire.
Right.
If they're looking for special events or whatnot, that's the type of stuff that I offer.
Right. So you take all of your chef experience, bring it into an existing or a new sort of tourism operation, hospitality operation, and give them that expertise.
I like to say that I provide the advice. Right? Because again, you're going into someone's establishment, you don't want to offend anybody. But again, people come to you for a reason. They're looking for solutions. And I think that based on my experience, I have a pretty good handle on what people need to do to help fix their business run the way they want it to run.
Tricky business, cooking, and a lot of moving parts to that, right? Talk to me about how you've seen the industry evolve over the number of years you've been in it.
Well, the culinary industry is a nickel and dime business.
Yeah.
Every nickel and dime counts. You go back to years ago when it was not as much selection in Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, the world's our oyster. Tons of options out there. Lots of competition, which is good. Competition is good for any industry, but so much more so in the culinary industry. So, we've seen people come on board who have really pushed the envelope in what quality is, which is what our guests coming to Newfoundland and Labrador expect, and even people from Newfoundland and Labrador. Years ago, when I first started in the industry, there wasn't as much travel, you didn't really have the internet as such. Now, people have experienced so much, they travel so much, their expectation is more of a worldly palate, and being able to offer that, but to offer it smartly, offer it so that, it works for everybody, make sure that the businesses are being successful, and that's what's so important. We're getting into a situation now where there's a lot more need for qualified workers. In Newfoundland and Labrador, when I first started, there was lots of options for culinary schools. They're still there, but not as many people are partaking. Lots of people leave the province to go and receive their culinary training, whether it be in PEI, George Brown in Toronto, Niagara College, which are some of the great ones. Once people leave you and then the opportunity of coming back, lots want to come back, but lots keep on traveling, which is great for their career, but is it great for us, and I think that's something we got to try to foster more of, right, in this industry. I take a look at, provinces who have the population like Ontario. They have 3 or 4 great culinary hospitality schools, like Niagara College, George Brown, Humber College. In Newfoundland and Labrador, we have probably the smallest population in the country, but yet our culinary schools and stuff are split up all over the province. And I understand that's job creation, but is that really what's best for the industry? Whereas, if it was all centralized, you could have people come in and, you could go to one school, you could teach baking, culinary, hospitality services. I take a look at Niagara College. They take a look at their brewery and winery operations, all in the same area. I think that's where the future needs to go.
Right. What would you tell a young person that's looking at a career as a chef right now in Newfoundland and Labrador? What would your advice be to them?
Well, what I would, they got to get in there and they got to work it to see it's something they're going to be able to do long term. Because again, it's not for everybody. But the one thing that it is, it's very rewarding. I know in my career, I've been very lucky. I've done events all over the world, worked all over the country, a lot of travel for free based on what you go towards. I've done TV shows in Trinidad. I've been on the Food Network a couple times. But at the end of the day, it's about running the business, and I think that's what I've taken more from it is how to go in and look at an operation, see what efficiencies are there, see where we are losing those nickels and dimes, and what I can, again, put in the owner's pocket, which is in turn goes into the employee's pocket.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people coming out of culinary schools have to understand. It's a business, right? whether you're working for somebody or you're on your own, it's your job or our job to put money in the owner's pocket, because then that money comes to your pocket.
Right. You know, I always like to ask a chef this question because you've been back there, you've been behind the line, slogging it out night after night. What was your worst night in the kitchen and your best night in the kitchen?
Well, I'd say my worst day in the kitchen was I was still in school, and actually, funny, I was talking to your producer, and one of my culinary instructors has the same name, Jerry Crew. It was at CEI Club, and he gave me enough beef for about 600 people, and it was a function for 400. I ran out. To me, that was like 20 short. Like, there's no earthly way. But I learned from that. That's the only time in my career I can honestly I ever really ran out of food. Right?
Yeah.
The one thing I've always, so my best day in the kitchen was when my first time a employee who worked with me, trained with me, got their first executive chef job. Because that, to me, meant I helped that person get there.
Right.
Which is what it's all about. In my career, I've been lucky. 14 people who've worked for me have gone on to run very successful hotels and restaurants. To me, that's a sense of pride, because I know I've helped them to get there.
Wow. Chef, been an absolute pleasure to be in conversation with you. Thanks very much for your perspective on the hospitality industry, and thanks for putting all that food on the table for people year after year after year. This is what the face of hospitality and tourism looks like in Newfoundland and Labrador.